welcome to this webinar. Thank you for everyone for joining us. Thank you, Andres, for accepting our invitation tonight. So Andres Gutierrez from LEDA MC will be speaking today about the 3 W's of IFPUG, which are the function point, what, the why, and the how. Right? What I will be asking you today, as we always do, is to we will keep our cameras off, our microphones off. We have the chat options where we can ask questions, where we can make comments about the presentation, which we will happily answer at the end of the presentation. I will briefly make this introduction so Andres can start his talk and his presentation about this topic today. Yeah, hello, Andres. I haven't yet saluted you. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Just losing my English right now, but this seems to happen with 35 degrees in Berlin, so all good. All right, so I'll turn my camera off, my microphone off. I will just leave the space for you to present this. We will see you at the end of this webinar, and we can respond also your questions about the IFPUG certification, which this webinar will also be mentioning. See you later.
Okay. So, hello and welcome to the 3 W's of IFPUG function point webinar. Introductions. I'm Andres Gutierrez. I'm a consultant in LEDA MC. I'm a certified function point specialist since 2012, but a function point enthusiast since 2006. But I'm also a software engineer, a development specialist, and soon to be a master in big data. And I've been using function points in different sectors like telco, banking, government, retail. And also in my rare moments of leisure, I write science fiction. So let's begin this journey with the first W. That's the what. Okay. The product, that's the what. That's what we need to measure with the IFPUG function points methodology. But tell me, which one of these 2 fries would you rather have? The white one or the red one? Maybe the answer would be, it depends. But if I tell you that both fries have the same cost and the same quality, maybe we all go for the red one, right? That's because we are all interested in the best. And in this case, the better option is the red fries because it has more and bigger fries, double the size of the white ones. That means more quantity and more product. But in our business, that's software, the software is the product. So if we want to know the size of the software, we need to measure it in the same way that we did with the fries. With the fries was easy because you can see that it's bigger, one fry bigger than the other. But in terms of software, you cannot see it. So how can we measure something without using a measuring tape or a scale? How can we measure something that is not tangible? Okay, by counting something that we can see or read. That means the existing screens of an application. But when we're trying to estimate the size of a software that is not implemented, well, we don't have screens or prototypes. So what can we do? So from there, we can turn to the requirements. Okay, and the requirements are the things that are needed or wanted by the end user of the application, both functional and non-functional. The ISO defines the functional requirement as something the application should do in terms of tasks and services. As an abstract example of a functional requirement, we can have this house, okay? We can add a bathroom, 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, a patio, okay? A patio could be large or small. But all of those are functional requirements of the house. And those requirements are telling us what to do, what to develop, not how to do it, okay? And if a house of, let's say, 100 square meters back in 200 years ago has the same size of a 100 square meters house today, although back then they needed months for building it and hundreds of workers to build it. Nowadays, we need just around 10 workers and a 3D printer to build the same house in less than a week. And that's because of the non-functional requirements, okay? The ISO defines a non-functional requirement as something that tells you how to develop an application instead of what. There are 2 types of non-functional, the technical and the quality requirements. The first one is related to the technology and the environment for the development, maintenance, support, execution of the software. The second one is related to operability, reliability, ease of use, efficiency, maintainability, and portability. Going back to the house, having it built out of bricks and not wood, or the floor made of marble instead of earthenware, or the thickness of the wall, all of those are non-functional requirements. The next step in the journey is to know how to measure that size, the size of the software, which methodology to use, okay? For the non-functional requirements, we have some methodologies like T-shirt, physical components, lines of code, story points for Agile, and LEDA UMSPs for parameterizations. And for the functional part, we have MK2 and Cosmic, mostly used in UK, 3D function points, use case points, simple function points, finished software measurements, feature points, object points, IFPUG, and NESMA. And NESMA is a good complement for IFPUG. If each of these 2 different types of methodologies has its own pros and cons. But in general, we can see that the functional is easy to the end user to understand, and is independent of the technology, of the methodology, and the human environment. That's and can be estimated early. The problems with the functional methodology is that we cannot measure the non-functional requirements, and we need a lot of documentation. I mean, a very good documentation to be able to estimate. While the non-functional methodologies, they can accept all types of requirements and can be adapted to any company. But the problem for the non-functional is not going to be able to compare them to another requirement and another methodology, and is totally dependent on the technology, the methodology, and the human factor. So why IFPUG? Why is that one that we're going to use? That's because the standard it's already a standard, de facto, of the industry. Okay, it allows benchmarking and comparison with the market. It's easy enough, but not the easier. That's important to understand. We need to understand the rules that is inside the methodology to be able to use it. So it's easy enough, but not the easier. It's already used around the whole world. We have a world community of users. Have a lot of support documentation, and also have certifications that is going to allow people to understand who knows how to use it. okay? And from the methodology comes the second W, the hoW. IFPUG functional method comes from the definition made by Alan Albrecht in the late 70s. And a few more methodologies were born out of this definition, like feature points that you can see, that comes from the definition that Alan Brecht did, MK2, and another ones have been appearing while IFPUG is being evolved, okay, like NESMA here or cosmic points here. Now we're going to see the actual method, how we can use IFPUG method and how we're going to be able to get the function points. The IFPUG function points method measures two types of transactions, of functionality, let's say, data functionality and transaction functionality. In the left side, we have the data functionality that has two types of data groups. That's the internal logical file. Those are the concept of data groups inside the application boundaries that are maintained through the transactions. The external interface file, those are the concepts or data groups outside of the application boundaries that are referenced through the transactions. That's important to understand. What the first one is inside, the second one is outside, and the first one is going to be maintained. So we can add, we can modify, we can delete records from them. While the second one, we are going to read from that data group to show in a transaction to the end user. And the next step to measure data is verify the complexity of these concepts, of these data groups. And that has to be done with two different types. The first one is the DETs. Those are the data element types. It's nothing more than the attributes inside the concept. Let's say if we have a user, the name, the address, the username, the password. Those will be the attributes of the concepts, and those will be for DETs, for data element types inside that data group. The second one will be the RETs. Those are the record element types. Those are logical subgroups inside the concepts. And with the combination of those, we are going to get the complexity. We have just three possible complexities: low, average, or high. And depending on that, we can have, for the internal logical files, 7, 10, or 15 function points. And for the external interface file, we're going to have 5, 7, or 10 function points. Now going to the middle part, the transactions, we have three types: the external input, the external output, and the external inquiry. The first one, the main goal for the external input is to maintain an ILF, an internal logical file, getting data from the outside to the inside. And the main goal for the other two, the external output and the external inquiry, is to send data from the outside, from the inside to the outside. But the particular thing that is going to difference these two types is that the external output is going to transform data, while the external inquiry is just going to take a picture of whatever is inside the application and is going to show it to the end user. And now the complexity of these transactions are made out of, once again, DETs, data element types. Once again, the attributes used in that transactions, the ones that the end user can see in a page, in a web page, for example. And the second one is the FTRs. Those are the file type reference. Those are the actual concepts or the ILF or the external interface files that we're going to use inside the transaction. So that means whatever we're going to read from or we're going to write and read from, those will be counted as FTRs. And once you combine the DETs, the amount of DETs and the amount of FTRs, you're going to get the complexity. And once again, we're going to get low, average, or high. In the case of the external input and external inquiry, we're going to have 3, 4, or 6 function points. And for the external output, we're going to have 4, 5, or 7 function points. And at the end, we just have to add everything to get the final count of function points. So we have a simple example here for the data group. This is a data group called customers. So inside that customers, we have 2 types of record, person and company. The person has 3 attributes, name, phone, address, and the company has the same 3 plus contact. So where we are counting the DETs, the data element type, we're going to count the one that has more. So in this case, we have 4 attributes in total for the data group customer. That means 4 DETs. And we have 2 types of record, person and company. That means we're going to have 2 RETs, 2 record element type. Okay, so having that 4 DETs and 2 RETs, we're going to get a low complexity data group. That means 7 function points in this case, in this example. So once again, in general, each data group is going to have a type. It's an internal logical file from which one we can read or update, or the one that is outside of the boundaries, the external interface file, from the one that we can only read. We're going to have the DETs, those are the attributes inside of that data group, and the RETs that are the different record types. Now we're going to see an example of a transaction. In this case, we're going to create a new customer. This new customer is going to have some DETs that are going from the outside to the inside, and that are going to be saved inside the data group. And we're going to put from the inside to the outside, we're going to send one attribute, a message. Okay, in this case, we have to count all the DETs, the input DETs and the output DETs. That means we're going to have the 3 attributes, name, phone, and address, as a DETs, plus the message. That means 4 DETs. And for the FTRs, that is then the other part for the complexity, for the transaction is going to be 1 FTR. That means 1 ILF, 1 internal logical file. That is the customer. So once again, having 4 DETs and 1 FTR, we're going to get a low complexity transaction. That means 3 function points. And in general, we're going to have inside the transaction input DETs, output DETs, and FTRs that can be internal or external. Okay, and we have the 3 types: external input, external inquiry, external output. And one of the main rules of function points is this one, the elementary process. The elementary process is the base of knowing which transactions are going to be counted, because we have to understand the main goal of each transaction. With that, we can understand if it's just one functionality or many functionality. Okay, we are now going to be an example, a real life example. Let's say Google. Okay, in this image, we have two different functionalities that we can see just looking at what we can see in this image, okay? Those are the search and the until unlucky. The first one, the search functionality, has the main goal of showing results to the end user. That means getting data from the inside of the application to the outside. So it could be either an external output or an external inquiry. Remember, both of those are going to get information, data from the inside to the outside. But the difference between them is that the external output has to transform data. And in this case, if you see here, it says about 4,140 results. So we're getting the total results. So he's transforming the data that is each of the results, and he's adding every one of them. He's counting them and telling us how many of those results we have. And also he's telling us how much time it took to get those results. So in this case, we're going to count this as an external output because we have data that is transformed, okay? Now, let's count the DETs in here. The first DET is the text box in which we write the things that we are looking for. The second DET will be the button that starts the action. This button is going to say, okay, go search this. This next DET, it would be the number of results. The next one will be the time that it took to get the results. So we're going to right now 1, 2, 3, 4 DETs right now. Okay, the next one, it will be the URL of the page that we got the result. Then the name of the web page, and then a short description of the page. And then we have the next result. And the next result has the same thing: URL, name, and a short description. So in this case, these are the same DETs that we are counting in every single result. So we're just going to count one DET for the URL, one DET for the name, and one DET for the description. The other ones are just a repetition of the same DETs. Okay, with that, okay, we have an external output with 7 DETs in total. The next one is going to be the I'm feeling lucky. The functionality, what it does is just going directly to the first result. So we can consider this functionality as an EQ because it's not transforming anything. It's just telling us there is one result and it's going to get to the first one directly. So it's just showing whatever it is already inside the application to the outside. However, there is a third functionality, and it's a hidden one. When we're writing inside the text box, there is a list of most search terms that has the letters that we are writing. So this one is a hidden functionality that we have to count. In this case, it's just showing us a list of possible terms that we can use. So once again, this will be an external inquiry because it's just showing us something that is already inside the application and is not transforming anything. So in the example of Google, we have 3 functionalities all around. Okay, the third W is why. Why to use this methodology? Well, that's because of the productivity. We need to use this productivity because with this, we can control and improve the productivity. We can control our suppliers, and we have another benefits that we're going to see later, but the main purpose is the productivity. And the productivity is just going to give us the amount of effort that we need to use to develop one function point. Okay, having the size of the project and the productivity, we can have the estimated effort needed to develop the application. The productivity will tell us how many hours we need to develop one function point. And depending on the technology, the productivity is going to be different. Okay, it's not the same to develop an application in Java or in COBOL. It's completely different. So we're going to get different productivities for each technology. It's important to understand that because once again, it's not the same develop some software in Java or in Drupal. Okay. And also we can talk about different productivities depending on what we're interested in control and improve also. We can talk an end-to-end productivity. That means having the whole phases that we have in the life cycle. For waterfall, we have analysis, technical design, construction and unit testing, integration, UAT, release, warranty. So if we're talking about the end-to-end productivity, we're going to say, okay, for each function point, you're going to use, let's say, 10 hours. And those 10 hours are going to be split between the different phases. Okay, but if we want to focus only on construction and unit testing, we can talk about a development productivity. And we're only going to get the effort for this phase. We can also talk about analysis, the functional productivity. That means having these three phases: analysis, technical design, and construction. We can talk about testing productivity, and we're going to have only these two phases, integration and UAT. So depending on what we need to control and improve, we can split the phases or have the whole effort in one productivity. Okay, but this is not only for waterfall. That's important to understand. We can also use it in Agile. Okay, the productivity in Agile we can measure each sprint, or we can measure it by release. It's the same way that we do it in waterfall. Okay, in Agile, that the main difficulty is that we don't have the requirements already defined. Okay, so that's why we said, okay, let's do a measurement at the end of the sprint, at the end of the release, so we can know exactly how much function points that sprint or that release is delivering. And with that, you can have something like the velocity of the team. And with that, you can start monitoring the development phases and the development groups and control and improve the productivity. Okay, now the benefits of the IFPUG function points. The first one, we already talked about it, that's the productivity management. If we have the size and the effort, we can understand what's the productivity of a team, of a supplier, or a technology, okay? And also we can go all the way to the cost. So we can understand how much time it's going to take to develop one function point and how much it's going to cost to develop one function point. Okay, and with that productivity, we can manage the suppliers. Why? Because we can compare them between them. We can compare between the different technologies that they have. We can also compare them to the market, and we can control that that productivity and have them improve with them. And with that, we can add that to the contract. We can add a paragraph or something in the contract that say, okay, you're going to start with this productivity after you do a baseline of the technology and for that special supplier, and add, okay, you start with this productivity, but the next year you're going to improve, let's say 5%, 10%. So you can control that and add it to a contract, and with that we can have to manage the suppliers, and also we can say, okay, the cost of each function point, we can add it at the contract, or we just let the productivity be there. We can do that, and it's going to help us at the contract stage. Now, we can also manage quality. If you have the information of all the UATs and the post-production issues that one particular project has, you can go and do a baseline of how many issues, errors there is going to be for one function point. So at the estimation part, you can tell the supplier, okay, if you're going to have 10 function points, we're going to accept a maximum, let's say, of 50 errors. So you can go to that level to say, okay, if you are delivering a software that has more than this limit, there's a problem of quality here. And another benefit is the manage development and maintaining processes. Give me a second. Okay. That is because if we have the function points at the beginning and at the end, we know how many function points have changed. Okay. We can do that with CRs also. We can know exactly how many points are we adding, deleting, or just updating. And also we can value the organization's software, in which we can go to the already existing applications and measure the function points of each functionality and have the amount of function points. And if we know that for ourselves in my company, how much it costs to develop one function point, you can have how much is the value of that software at the end. Let's say if in my company, I know that it's going to be 100 euros to develop one function point, and I'm going to measure an application that has, let's say, 200. Okay, that means 20,000 euros is the value of that asset of the company. Okay, another benefit is the project management. You can follow the value, the gain value, by knowing the amount of function points delivered instead of the classic way that was the task and the effort. Another benefit, the estimating project resources. If you know the size, you can estimate the resources that you need to develop any application. Okay. The next one will be the scope change. Okay, you can manage that scope, the scope changes, having the original size and the previous change and the size after the change, and you will know exactly how much was the the change, and then knowing that size, you can estimate the effort, the cost, and the resources. Also, you can do a budget maintenance, because if you can do an early estimation, you can know how much it's going to cost or how much is supposed to going to cost, because remember, an early estimation, we have it can vary greatly, but it's going to be more accurate than just going to say as just telling us an effort because of what I know was the history. Okay. The next one was the estimating the adequacy of a package. That means going to an already existing package and see if the functionality that is delivering us, that is giving us, is the one that we need. So if we go measure the functionality, we know if it's going to deliver what we actually need. And we can also compare different packages if we need to. If we need to understand which package is going to deliver more functionality to us, or which one is going to deliver the actual functionality that we need, we can compare packages with the function points. And also the last one, and finalizing the webinar, is the benchmarking. So you can do a benchmarking to compare yourself, your organization, to the market. Okay, you can compare yourself in each of the technologies that you have to the market to see if you have a better productivity, or if you're under the market productivity. And with that, you can try to improve your suppliers. So it's a very good tool to do this benchmarking part. Okay, that's all for the webinar. Thank you very much to everyone. Now, if you have any questions, it's time for that.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, that was quite a lot of information. I hope it was clear for everyone. We've received quite a few questions. So if that's okay with you, I will read you a few. We have some from the chat, we have some from WhatsApp. But the first question was, in case of a new development or an enhancement, is the sizing done the same way?
Okay. When we are measuring each functionality, it's done the same way. Okay. When we are developing or doing an enhancement of an application, we're going to measure each functionality exactly the same way. We're going to get the possible functionalities. We're going to ask for the main goal. We're going to ask for which type it will be, the complexity, everything in terms of identifying the data group, the transaction, the complexities, everything is going to be the same way. But the difference is where we're developing a new application, the amount of function points, it will be just the adding every single function point that we have, okay? But when we're doing an enhancement, it's not going to be the same size, because we have a size, previous size, original size, and then an after the enhancement size. So the actual size of the enhancement will be the difference between them. It's a little more complicated than this, because we're going to, when you're doing an enhancement, you're going to add functionality, you're going to delete functionality, you're going to change functionality. So the added functionality will be x function points. So you just count them and you have the size of that part. When you're deleting, once again, you have to take those transactions that you're going to delete and have the size of that, but that is going to add function points, not going to take from the count. That's a difference there. And also, when you're going to change a functionality, you're going to see the previous size and the after enhancement size, and you're going to subtracts one from the other, and you're going to get the size that changed that transaction. It may be zero because the complexity is exactly the same after the enhancement. So we're going to say, okay, there was a change, but the size of that enhancement will be zero. After all, we have to add the added functionality, the deleted functionality, and the changed functionality to know the size of the enhancement. But the sizing of each functionality is going to be the same way. I hope I answered the question correctly.
Well, we will see if that person comments in the chat. I see another comment coming here. That's actually very sweet. Thanks, Andres, for the beautiful presentation and congratulations. And thanks. That's just a comment, but it is worth commenting on. I see another question here. So this one, we may be answering it together. How do I get IFPUG certified? I guess I will be answering part of it and letting you speak about the later part. But yes, of course, mentioning this, I'll be happy to give the information. First, what is important is all the contacts to contact Leda and Brightest are here on this slide. We're welcome to send you more details afterwards. But Brightest is the global provider for the IFPUG certification. So in any language that you need, we will be the official exam provider. We do collaborate with the IFPUG committee and with different training providers in charge of the courses, the training for that. So in that sense, maybe Andres, you would like to speak about that part of the training, but you're more than welcome to contact us at Brightest to ask more about the conditions of the exam that you can take online worldwide.
Yeah, we have training courses in Leda MC Academy. Mm-hmm. We have two different courses. One is for beginners, the ones that want to understand and learn for the first time function points, and another is specifically to get the certification. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a lot harder, that training, but if you want to know more about Leda MC Academy and these trainings, you can follow this QR code that is right now on the screen, and you can see the trainings there. And if you need to ask any other question about them, you have my email here. So perfect. Anytime you need, we're there to answer any question.
So very good. I hope this one is fully responded. If you have not extra info, we have another nice comment here. I loved your talk, Andres. Could you comment on some real case of application of the function points that you have carried out?
Okay. It has been a lot. I've been, like I say, I've been using function points since 2006. Okay, but we can talk the very first one. I'm from Colombia, and the first one that I used function points in was for the Treasury of Colombia. That's a ministry inside the government. Okay, it was a huge project. It has around 13 microprocessors and around 700 use cases. We use it for scope change sizing for each CR. Also, we did the initial estimation for when we do the RFP. And that system was about the whole process of how the tax money was distributed and executed from the moment that each office in the government will ask for the money for the budget through the Congress approval and so on until it was executed. So the biggest project that I have measured was that. And That's the answer.
Wow, that's quite a good case. All right. I think we have a bit more time. Are you okay to respond another question? We have
Sure. Yeah,
some
sure.
more here. With the function points, you can count any application of any technology, microservices, web services, BI. Would you like to comment on
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. There is a way to measure all technologies, although the IFPUG have no set official rules for sizing microservices, web services, or BI, or let's say blockchain, that is a new one. We can adapt the rules of sizing to get the points from these special technologies. Okay, if you go for the BI, we can understand data load into the fact tables or dimensions. We can count it as external input because we're loading data from the outside of the BI to the inside. And the final report could be an external output because it's going, that's information that's coming from the inside to the outside. Okay, and a data group could be the actual fact tables. So like I said, there's no official way to do it, but we can use the rules defined by the IFPUG to measure any type of technology.
Wow, then it's quite versatile. I hope, is there any more questions? Do you want precision from that point? Seems we're fine. Okay, then we have one more question for you, Andres. So is this really used in some companies? Do you know any case?
Okay, yes.
Quite a direct question.
Actually, a lot. Because, like I said, the Treasury in Colombia uses them. I'm talking about a ministry inside the government. And also, once again, in Colombia, the Central Bank of Colombia, called Banco de la República, it only uses function points for the development. Okay, in Europe, we can talk about Orange, Correos, Vodafone. Okay, there's a lot that is actually using them. And also, the European Union is saying that it's advising to use the function points for the estimation part. So it is used and very broadly. There is countries that already has like a law that says we can only use function points when we're talking about government software applications, like Brazil, let's say. So not only companies, but whole countries.
Perfect. Well, that is quite a precise case. So I hope this gives a good idea of the possibilities of using the function points for all those and the methodology that the IFPUG is given. All right, I am running out of questions here. We do have another comment that no question, all clear. So all good on that sense. I don't know, Andres, if you'd like to give some final words, closing words.
Yes, thank everybody who attend the webinar. And I hope to see you again in another webinar, and another theme. But once again, if you need to contact me, you have my email, and anything you like to know about function points or LEDA, we'll be answer you any question that you have.
Fantastic. Well, same here. Lovely to see you in video. We have one member who joined us. Hello. And well, yeah, the same on my part. Thank you, Andres, for accepting our invitation to speak tonight. It was really appreciated on our part to see how all the extent, all the function points, and how to use them so practically. So I hope we can receive you again in English or in Spanish, who knows. It will be lovely. And thanking everyone for joining us tonight. The video will be available soon through the Brightest platform on the Brightest website. So don't hesitate to go there. We also have our YouTube channel where you can see all the videos we've been doing with our fantastic partners. So see you anyway next month, where we'll have our next webinars coming, and have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.